The Windbreaker, a custom interceptor I've had in the game for over a year and a half by now. I never got around to making an official tour video for it like what some of my other friends have done over a year ago, and considering what happened to it canonically,
I'm tired, boss.
now that it's a new chapter and that Windbreaker II has been implemented recently, here's an official tour of Windbreaker II. So this is Windbreaker II. It's pretty similar to Windbreaker I, though there are quite a few design alterations and things that I actually changed. When it came to making the second iteration of the vehicle, it was difficult to actually try and find any meaningful design changes to warrant a second vehicle. Windbreaker II was modeled from the ground up and it's packed with more detail and functionality. Canonically, it's built on a 2017 Bullhorn Buffalo 3500, which is the twisted equivalent of a 2017 Dodge Ram 3500. Overall, it's pretty similar to TIF2 in terms of its design and mechanical side of things. It uses the same double rear dually axle type system for weight support of the fuel tank and the equipment in the back. With a 100-gallon diesel tank, it gets about 9 miles per gallon, totaling out to a 900-mile range. The backbone of the design includes a fully modeled frame along with armor compositing. In terms of thickness, the composite armoring would be around 1.5 inches thick or 1.75 inches, including the external aluminum skin. The layering of the composite armor, starting from the inside and going to the outside, is 3/8 inch Kevlar, 1/16 inch aluminum, 3/16 inch steel, 3/8 inch rubber, 1/4 inch polycarbonate, 1/4 inch rubber, and 1/4 inch aluminum exterior. It's not as thick as TIF2 in a lot of areas, but I think it's compensated with being sandwiched between tons of crossbeams in the frame. All the exterior aluminum panels are actually bolted on for easier repair and replacements if necessary. For the aerodynamics, which is another important thing when it comes to making an intercept vehicle, I actually tested it in a fluid simulation to see the aerodynamics and drag it causes. The front end is pretty aerodynamic, while the side profile is a little bit more questionable, but that applies to almost every other vehicle. The only alternative would basically be making a turtle probe on wheels. Like TIF2, it utilizes a flap system that lowers down by hydraulics to block wind from getting underneath the vehicle. Another function of the flaps, though, is that it's able to lift the vehicle slightly, thus redistributing the weight off of the wheels. When you have it lift the vehicle up and redistribute the weight, it basically widens the footprint area, thus helping anchor the vehicle even more, rather than just having the wheels actually keep it in place, in which this was actually a specific design feature for TIF2 when it was first built. Although Dominator 3 deploys quicker, the friction force is only concentrated in the wheels. Starting off with the front flap, there's a lot of different things on it. The flap itself is constructed with aluminum panels with steel framing bracing the back of it. The skull is probably one of the most iconic things with the vehicle. The original idea I had was going to involve bull's horns like what some people mount on the front of their cars, but then I got the idea of putting a full bull skull instead with red lights for its eyes. Down below it, it's got a double siren speaker type setup like what's on TIF2. For the headlights, there's a pair of circular headlights like what was on TIF2 between 2013 to 2023, as well as some rectangular lights. There's also some roof-mounted high-beam type lights like what's also on TIF2, in which these are actually toggleable and separate from the normal headlights. On both sides of the grille hole, we have some amber strobe lighting that was done with the help of Tofu. It has a simple flash pattern for visibility. There's also a pair mounted on the rear corners of the side flaps. There's also some DRLs or daytime running lights, and some blinkers that also function as marker lights. Behind the flap is a winch which is mounted on the flange that covers the grill hole of the front flap when it lowers. There are also some tow hitches on both sides of it, as well as some in the back. For the spikes that anchor the vehicle, there is a total of 8 spikes. There are 4 primary spikes measuring around 2.5 feet long, with a pair in the front of the vehicle as well as in the back. In the middle, there are 4 auxiliary spikes measuring around 3.5 feet long with a pair mounted on each side. Mounted on the tips are these TIV 2 style harpoon type tips with modified flanges to try and help prevent them from getting stuck, which was an issue that TIV 2 had with its spike tips. One of the biggest changes with the spikes was mounting it on the inside of the actual body instead of having them on the side flaps. This helps keep the vehicle aerodynamic and streamlined. By not having the spikes on the flaps, it prevents force loading and dampening of the hydraulics for the side flaps, allowing the full weight of the vehicle to drive the spikes in. For the side flaps, we have some marker lights running along the top of them. Similar to the front flap, it utilizes aluminum panels with steel framing. For the rear of the side flaps, it actually wraps around the back, similar to the Dorothy Interceptor. There are some blinkers on the back that also act as marker lights. Along the sides of the side flaps is the livery, which is inspired by the forewarned Dominator 4 livery that Dominator 2 had. Below are some flanges and steps to help for entry, along with some handles on the body. Moving onto the rear of the vehicle, we have some tail lights and brake lights, along with some sequential blinkers. The rear is where the gas cap is actually located at, where you fill the vehicle up, along with some various stickers around it. There is also some caution signage indicating the vehicle drives into tornadoes and makes frequent stops in storms. Below is the Windbreaker II engraving, along with the license plate. Around it are some KSWB stickers, along with a "I'll see you in hail" sticker like what was on the back of the Tornado Wrangler from Twisters. On the bottom is a small section of rubber skirting to help cover the gap underneath. On the rear windshield are some memorial stickers for Gary England, Twistex, and Thion Kinning. Moving back to the front of the vehicle, we have the hood, which opens like the TIV 2. There are some rubber cushions and stoppers for the hood to rest on when it's open. For the engine itself, it utilizes a 6.7 liter Cummins diesel engine. On the side is a display tallying the number of intercepts the vehicle gets. The way it's tallied is that it uses the highest wind speed recorded per tornado. Back when Windbreaker I first debuted, I actually tallied intercepts with individual plaques similar to what TIV 1 did. As expected, I eventually ran out of room, so I had to come up with a new way for tallying them. Moving onto the roof, almost every surface is used by something. Towards the front, like on Windbreaker I, it utilizes a vertical scanning radar, which was inspired by the Dominator 1 and Dominator 2 radars on the roof. In the center, there's a sunroof window for upwards viewing from the inside. Behind it, we have a roof hatch that opens, along with some rubber stoppers to cushion it so it doesn't hit the sunroof. Additionally, there's an enclosure for a mini Starlink, as well as some antennas and cell boosters towards the rear. Due to the lack of space on the roof of both Windbreaker 1 and 2, I can't fit a full turret on it. A perfect compromise though that is one of my favorite things with Windbreaker 2 is this 360-degree camera mounted inside of a protective bubble. From the passenger seat, you can control it and have a 360-degree view around the vehicle. Moving on to the anemometer, we have a heavy-duty anemometer along with a J-tube. I know that J-tubes are inferior to U-tubes, but it was chosen because it vertically fits better. The mast has some wires that run down and connect to the body for extra support. Moving on to the Dominator 3 inspired gull-wing doors, they use gas struts for assisted opening. Finally, moving on to the interior of the vehicle, towards the back we actually have a floor escape hatch for emergencies. There's also a warning sign indicating to watch your step as you get inside the vehicle for people that might not see the hatch below them. On both sides of the rear, we have some shelves which contain air compressors and hydraulic pumps. We also have a shovel for mud recovery and some traction boards, but due to the weight of the vehicle, I highly doubt it would be able to support it. In the back corner, we have some spare fuel cans for any of the KSWB vehicles if they happen to run out of gas. There's also some jack stands in the event of needing to do some roadside maintenance. Back in the other corner, we have a box of spare anemometers, which is an Easter egg to what TIV 2 had in it at one point. Some additional Easter eggs include a tape measure, ruler, protractor, and a notebook. These were items I used to actually measure some of the dimensions of both Dominator 3 and TIV 2 when I first met the vehicles in person. Next to it we have a hard case, which is supposed to be the case that holds my drone in real life. On the fuel tank, we have a custom turtle probe inspired probe concept with a 360-degree camera on the inside. Mounted on the front of one of the shelves, we have a fire extinguisher in the event that a TIV 1 electrical fire incident happens. We also have a box of tools, along with some medical equipment and a stretcher. And between the rear seats we have a cooler that can store some snacks and drinks. Finally, moving on to the dashboard of the vehicle, we have a lot of stuff here. We've got dual aircraft style screen displays. Down by the cup holders, we have a NOAA weather radio. Mounted in front of the passenger seat is a navigation computer. Next to it, we have a breaker panel for all the electronics in the vehicle. Down below, we have a picture of the man himself. We've also got a tiny glove box to store any vehicle registration or documents. At the very bottom of the dashboard, we also have a radio for communications. Down here we have some switches for the exterior lighting, along with some air compressor controls. For the airbag suspension system, we have some primary dump valves along with some pressure gauges and an AccuAir E-level ride height controller like what's in Dominator 3. Another one of my favorite things is this interior LED lighting like what's inside TIV 2. It can glow red, green, blue, or white. Next to the steering wheel, we have the deployment system panel. At the bottom, we have the switches that engage the hydraulic pumps. Above that, we have the switches that control the flaps and the spikes. Another Easter egg is this radar save I have while chasing the Morton, Texas EF2 from June 5th of this year. I got a little bit more than what I bargained for from getting too close.
I know this looks bad, but I promise I'm behind it to the west. This is big hail. Big hail! Big hail!
On top of the dashboard on the display of this camera is actually a picture of the Marion, Illinois EF4 that I chased from May 16th of this year as well.
Oh my god, there's debris. I hope that's just trees and leaves and stuff. Holy cow. Yeah, that is violent, dude. That is actually violent.
Below displayed on the screen is a radar display of that tornado. On the other screen is a display of a custom SPC outlook I made that is a slightly edited version of the US map to include what I canonically see as the state location of Keysota. Back up above the deployment panel is a homage picture commemorating Windbreaker I. Hanging from the rearview mirror, we have a Dorothy probe sensor. To end things off, here is a showcase of the full deployment along with the threshold and time it takes. With that, I think that'll conclude the official tour of Windbreaker II. So I hope you all enjoyed, and that I hope I managed to answer any questions that anyone had about the vehicle with this tour. Good luck with your next chase, and maybe you'll see me on the roads of Keysota.